Thank you for listening to the BjjBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BjjBrick Podcast. This week, episode 309, and we have a very special guest, Ashley Williams. Ashley, he's been in Kasai, Polaris, EBI. He's basically fought everywhere. So stay tuned to about the middle of the show to have Ashley drop some knowledge, and we can all learn from him. But as usual, I've got the other two of the Three Musketeers. I have Joe, and I have Byron. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good, Gary. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. We've got the Three Musketeers, and a little bit later on in the show, we have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. So we have a lot of superheroes in addition to Ashley Williams on the show today.
Yeah, Ashley's not the Ninja Turtle. We got a quote from one of them.
Michelangelo.
Yeah.
We have a quote from
or possibly the artist. Hard to tell. We'll figure that out when we get there, perhaps. But really happy to bring you guys Ashley Williams. He's been on the scene for a while, and I've had my eye on him. And I was like, man, finally was able to get in contact with him, and excited to bring you guys that interview this week. So stay tuned for that for sure. Every week we try to bring you kind of an off-the-mat lesson, and as we're getting ready to record this podcast, I have a family reunion to attend to here in a little bit today, and I've been going to these reunions here in Wichita for all my life. That I mean, maybe I don't know if they were around the first 3 years of my life, but since I was a child, been going to the reunion, seeing the same people, and trying to cultivate some relationships with them, and like I have really great relationships with my siblings and parents. My cousins are also pretty solid, but I don't see them as much as I'd like to as we get older. But I've known those people all my life, and I'm thinking about like kids classes. There's the relationship I have with my cousins and my siblings is good because it's been cultivated for so long, and we do things together. More my siblings than my cousins, but I would like to have more of that relationship with my cousins. But it's just hard as everybody has their own families and stuff like that. It's hard to get together all the time. But I think about kids classes in jiu-jitsu. Some of these kids will be doing jiu-jitsu well into their adult lives. And if you start it young, some of those kids will be doing jiu-jitsu alongside them. And it's kind of like almost like a cousin-style relationship or a sibling relationship as you guys grow and get better and work at jiu-jitsu together, doing a fun activity with a person. You could easily, be 25 years old and have a training partner for 20 years. If you started when you were just a child, it's kind of crazy. And really, those type of relationships are hard to forge as an adult. I think sometimes that's why jiu-jitsu is a great thing, because you make new friends, where a lot of times as an adult, we have our buddies from grade school. But I'm just thinking that's a great opportunity, long-term play, to get your kids around some other active kids and possibly form great bonds that could be lifelong.
Yeah, that's a great selling point for jiu-jitsu, Byron. I like that. And I would agree that that's one of the greatest benefits. It's one of the things I love most about jiu-jitsu is the opportunity to meet and make new friends. Yeah,
and just from that perspective, I don't have any kids myself, so I don't know what I would do. But if the kids at a gym, let's say, are getting to that age where they're a bit rebellious and maybe they're getting into some activities that are harmful, you might look at, is this the right gym for that kid? Maybe we need to look at switching teams to avoid some off the mat negative things that might be happening. I don't see that as a very common thing, but these people will be part of your child's life for quite a while. So you can alter that environment just by moving them if need be. I mean, that would be that's not desirable, and maybe just a conversation with the coach as far as, hey, I noticed that some of these kids are going out and causing trouble or doing these sort of things. That, is there any way to, kind of as a coach enforce better behaviors? I don't know. I'm kind of talking in an area I don't know much about, but I think that's one thing that would be important to look at.
Byron, I like how you're talking about how you have the the reunion every year, and you get to see people you haven't seen for a while, and like you said, you foster those relationships. But we were talking before the show started. I know Byron didn't mention this, but ever since Byron started training about 15, 16 years ago, since that time, they have had a jiu-jitsu tournament at this family reunion, and Byron's the only one who trains. His brother trained for a little while, but Byron's the only one out of the whole family who trains jiu-jitsu. And he's hoping to finally win it this year. He's finished third the last 7 years.
Those other kids are tough, man.
He's really been working hard. He thinks he has a shot this year. So, good luck, Byron. We got your back, literally.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. We'll see how it pans out. I'm super nervous. These guys, they're not good, but they just keep beating me every year.
Just go back and listen to some, you said you're super nervous. Go back and listen to some of our previous episodes, where we've had people talk about, ways to calm your nerves and, to get ready for a tournament. And that should definitely help you.
I'm nervous that some of them got one of my audiobooks, guys.
No, that's an unfair advantage. We can't have that happen.
Yeah, if they've been playing 6 games for BJJ for the last year, they're likely to be pretty tough to beat this year, Byron.
Yeah, Byron, you're done. Don't even show up.
Man.
Yeah. If they've been playing like ragdoll, and just getting used to being uncomfortable and
just do it.
Yeah, and just do it. And yep, you're in trouble, man.
Yep. Speaking of being in trouble, if those kids have got Byron's audiobook, 6 games for BJJ, basically, we have it on sale. We have a link to it on the show notes, $5.99. And basically, you're going to have fun while you're rolling. You're going to get better faster. You're going to develop your team. You're going to have a unique game, and you're going to have more fun. But it's got 6 different games: the Nike Method Ragdoll, Model Someone, Set Limitations, Man on a Mission, and my personal favorite, Backwards Grappler. We've got a lot of good reviews on it. Byron spent a lot of time putting this together. It's helped a lot of people. It's 1 hour and 2 minutes. Not just 1 hour. Byron gives you the extra 2 minutes just to put you over the top. So check it out. Let your friends know about it, and you will be able to beat Byron and at the Jabara family reunion.
Man, as you were saying it, we've said this, talked about this book a million times, but it's $5.99. 6 games. That's less than $1 per game.
What a bargain.
You can't go to Walmart and buy a game for less than $1. What a deal.
There you go. You can maybe buy a print or a painting of a famous person, or by a famous person, perhaps. But not a sculpture.
Definitely you can't get a sculpture. But, I was watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Michelangelo was on there. And, I was just going through the internet, and I saw an interview from Michael, or a quote from Michelangelo. I thought it'd be perfect here. The greater danger for most of us lies in not setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting our aim too low and achieving our mark. We got to shoot for the stars. Like, when Byron started this podcast, if he wanted to be ranked the 497th podcast, and let's say there were 500 podcasts, I mean, that's probably pretty easy to do. You figure there's 3 of those podcasts that probably don't even put out any episodes. Maybe put one out every 6 months, and it should be very easy to beat those guys. You have to set goals that are tough. You have to, like Byron, he wanted to be the number 1 ranked podcast. We haven't got there yet, but I don't know if you guys know, but we are actually the number 2 ranked podcast. So, Byron.
Okay, you got to throw in the little asterisks by that, though, because that sounds really weird. One website ranked us number 2 for martial arts podcasts.
It doesn't matter, Byron. We are number 2 on somebody's list. Okay. So, but I mean, Byron set the goal high. He hasn't achieved it yet, but every week Byron has 4 or 5 meetings with Joe and I, and telling us where the direction of this podcast is going to go.
Yeah.
And tweaking stuff. I mean, he's tweaking stuff all the time.
My neck.
Well, that's coming with those kids who are checking out your audiobook. That's what's going to happen. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, for this podcast, I'm just using this as an example. You know, Byron set the goals very high. We haven't reached it yet. Byron's on a mission, and you know, he's tweaking stuff. You know, learning, educating himself, and you know, training Joe and I. And Joe and I, we're hard to train. We don't listen very well, but we are going to get this podcast. We're going to be ranked number 1 on that one guy's website.
Yeah. I think looking at this quote by Michelangelo, the artist, he's really advocating that it's okay to shoot for a high goal and miss it. But it's not okay to have a low goal and just get that and not reach your potential. So just evaluate some of your goals. And I mean, who doesn't have a goal that's super easy that you know you're going to reach and is no big deal? And I think my issue is I don't want goals that are unreasonable. Like knowing how much time and effort I can put in something, what would be a good goal for me that would also push me and not just have me, you know, not push myself at all and grow. So that's kind of how I interpret this.
Yeah, I think one of the issues here is putting your goal at a lower, aiming at a lower goal and putting so much importance on it that then when you finish it, there's a letdown or some type of negative effect. I think that's why a lot of people traditionally quit at blue belt. They put that up on a pedestal and they're aiming and they're aiming and they're aiming, and then when they get it, it's like, well, now what? You know, or if you have a tournament 6 months out, that's great. Plan on it, you know, train for it. But if you build it up into your mind as this is the big thing that you're aiming for, you do it, and then what? So I think it's the goal should be to continue to get better. Looking forward to transitioning the article here. They talk about gaining knowledge instead of score. So yeah, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, good points, guys. I think we're good to go. Let's roll the interview with Ashley Williams.
He is the most interesting grappler in the world. He once wrist-locked an opponent and broke the guy's back. He rolls no-gi because he grips the skin better anyways. Cro-Magnon Man started walking upright after he got double underhooks on him.
Some say keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I have choked all my friends, and my enemies are nowhere to be found. Let the sweat times roll, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Ashley Williams to the BjjBrick Podcast. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hi, Byron. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great having you on the show, and I'm excited to talk to you and learn from you. You're an active competitor in jiu-jitsu, no-gi, and you've done a lot of stuff out there. Tell us a little bit about like who you are, where you're at, and which you like a little bit of what you've done and what you're looking to do.
So I'm a 26-year-old first degree black belt from Wales. I train out of the Christian Academy in Swansea, which I have done for the last 10 plus years. I've competed on numerous events: Polaris, EBI, Kasai, Figure 4, and I've fought multiple IBJJF tournaments up until really brown to early black. I was primarily a gi / no-gi, like points fighter, competing on the IBJJF circuit. Primarily, like 90% of my tournaments was probably IBJJF, where I managed to probably top out at a European no-gi black belt gold, which is probably my biggest achievement in that type of format. And then more recently, I've actually transferred over to the sub-only format, just because I think it suits the style of grappling I like, and I like the idea of being part of what is making jiu-jitsu professional. So I like the idea behind trying to be entertaining, so that eventually there will be potentially good paydays, and obviously the athletes themselves will see the rewards of competing, as opposed to where it kind of stands currently. So that's what I've been up to lately. Obviously, the most recent victory would be the Polaris lightweight championship, where I was fortunate enough to beat Ethan Kronstein via a ref's decision. And then before that, I had beaten Imanari and Frank Rosenthal. So some good previous matches in the last few months. So I'm very, very happy where I'm at currently.
That's awesome. So what was tell us a little bit about your Polaris experience. What's that like competing there?
Obviously, I've fought now on a few professional shows. All of them are brilliant. To be honest, I've not really had a negative experience in any of the shows. I've tried to be on Polaris for the last few years, to be honest. I wanted to compete in there since they kind of started, which is really bizarre because some of their first events were actually in Cardiff, which is 40 minutes from my house. So I was hoping to kind of get on those cards, but they kept offering me kind of like last minute gi matches, and some of them were like as heavy as 76 kilos. Where really I want to be fighting featherweight no gi. So I have actually declined a few matches on Polaris, which I know some people would say you should never decline a match, etc. But I feel like I'm trying to build up myself as a brand, etc. So taking the right match at the right time is definitely something you have to consider. And fighting on Polaris the last 2 times, I'm actually a very, very big fan of their rule set and kind of how they treat you as an athlete. I think they're very professional. They're doing, like some really great things with bringing some of the high-level guys over. I still think, like a few of the cards have missed the caliber of like depth in terms of they've had like 1 or 2 matches which are absolutely phenomenal, but then the rest of the card really isn't to the same quality. But as a total organization, like a professional organization, I think they're absolutely brilliant. They're just going to keep going on to bigger and better things. The 15-minute rule, like the 15-minute time, I think potentially might be a bit too long, but the idea of 3 5-minute rounds scored, I quite like. I think that keeps the whole match entertaining. Whereas a lot of sub-only shows unfortunately suffer from boring matches due to the rule set not encouraging enough work rate in the middle part of the match in particular. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Polaris, and I think they're doing great things, and I'm really excited to see where they go in the future, to be honest.
So just to explain to somebody who may not know, the 15 minute match has 3 rounds. Each round is scored independently of the other rounds. Is that correct? So you could win 2 close rounds, and then the third round you could lose by quite a bit.
Yeah. So I think the easy way to think of Polaris matches is 1 15-minute round.
Okay.
But it's the equivalent of an MMA fight where it's split into 3 rounds, but you do not get a rest in between the rounds. So it's really like communicating with your cornermen and them letting you know when the first 5 is gone, second 5 is gone, etc. So you can kind of keep track of where you are, where you need to be, kind of finishing on that round, finishing strong, etc. It's one of the things that I do when I prep for Polaris. I do particularly roll with the rule set in mind to make sure I'm finishing like rounds in strong positions and making sure I'm just pushing to complete the 5 minutes. That's probably one of the one thing that, for example, with myself and Ethan, Ethan had a good pass of play on me. He for 2 minutes, he was really putting the pressure and pace on me where he managed to pass my guard and get to mount. But if you think within that rule set, that only gives him the 1 round. And I think that's where a bit of confusion was with some people online when they talked about the match. They said obviously Ethan was more dominant because of that passage of play, really, where really he had achieved the victory for the 1 round. And that's where I felt like I won the matches. I won the first and third round. Yeah,
you're not totaling up points over the whole thing. You're totaling up who wins the most rounds. And,
yes.
And so there's so many different formats and point systems and that sort of thing. It sounds like you are, but you're definitely tailoring your training to fit what you want to do next. Is that right?
Yeah, so I believe that obviously having good jiu-jitsu will predominantly allow you to win any rules format. So as in, if you are always the person achieving the takedown, always achieving the pass, always getting to the back, then looking for the submissions, obviously it would not matter what rule set you put that game plan into. you would always win. But then when you look at, for example, when you compare like IBJJF maybe to sub only, where if you do some tournament formats, for example, like Grapple Fest, rely quite heavily on like one submission attempt. So I could pass you, I could take you down, pass you, take you back, but not really get a good submission attempt off. And then you could escape and then tie up my leg, for example, and try maybe not even that deep of a heel hook. But if you get a submission attempt off, it will automatically trump all positional dominance. So, for example, in a match like that, I'd prep a little bit differently, because sometimes exchanging submissions could allow you to get to somewhere you want to get to. But in that rule format, you're going to lose on those terms, So like IBJJF, you get the guys that are like fighting hard, even just for advantages, they'll steal an advantage, and that would mean a big difference to their potential win or loss. But obviously in different rule formats, then that would change. So when I compete, I look at the rule format. I make sure I put it within my game plan, which is usually what I said initially, which is the wrestle, the pass, and then if I can achieve the back, that's where I want to be. And then I look at how I could achieve that over the time frame without allowing the other person to win on what I'd class as like technicalities of the rules.
How much of your time is split? Like, are you 100% focused on training and getting better, or is there some percentage of it that you're teaching or that you're coaching? Where's your balance at right now?
Right now, I'm predominantly in a training routine. So approximately, I think it was 5 years ago, I finished university, and then I was contemplating what to do kind of next. And I thought, well, I really enjoyed jiu-jitsu. At that time, I was a purple belt, and I was like, I'd probably just try and do jiu-jitsu full time and see how it goes initially. But probably like 80% of my schedule being coaching, because I had to earn a living. And as I've managed to go higher in the ranks, and the academy I trained at, I actually managed to work up to only 50% of the academy with my current coach. So I do have an academy which I run, but we pay a lot of other coaches to take some of the sessions so that I'm more freed up to train. So I probably train between 3 to 4 hours per day, and I coach maybe up to 4 or 5 hours a week. So my coaching is like tailored right back at the moment. But I was injured last year, so I did like 9 months of coaching 3-4 hours a day, which didn't bother me. When I can't really train that hard, the athlete lifestyle is relatively boring, to be honest. You don't do that much. You got to kind of eat clean, so your weight's not going too high. Obviously, you could lift and rehab, but there's only so much that you can do every single day. So coaching was a big aspect of my life. But now with a lot of big matches coming up, I try to make sure I'm on the mats for my own personal benefit, a high percentage of the time.
Yeah, you mentioned an injury. What happened there last year?
So last year I was actually playing around with I was going back and forth with my body, a couple of injuries. A few that were like just not like by themselves. They would have been enough that would kept me off the mat, but the combination of the couple were enough. That I had a ligament tear in my wrist, which I'm actually still currently waiting surgery on. I actually tore something in my groin, and the one that was the primary injury was a disc bulge in my neck. So that was really hindering training. I couldn't use my head for anything. Really, I couldn't take any collision to the head. I was getting a lot of numbness, pins and needles through my arms. So it literally, because of the injury in my leg, like my hip and my hand, it kind of hindered the ability to do just do legs in the gym, or just do arms in the gym. I kind of had injuries that were split across my body, so it made training quite difficult through that period. But I managed to make sure my weight didn't go up too much, and I was kind of rolling one day with specific training partners who I trusted, and then I probably have the next day or maybe 2 days off, and then roll again. So I was doing one day on, 2 days off, or 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off maximum. I really wasn't training very hard at all. Did
you find that you had to change what you were training, as far as if you really like doing this particular technique, but because of your injury, you had to back away from that, and maybe you picked up something new?
Yeah, so I did. I actually spent a lot of time developing my my leg pummeling game because of the neck injury in the hand. Although the groin was a little bit, it wasn't brilliant, but it was definitely like I could monitor the situation enough to train. So I couldn't wrestle at all because of my neck. So I was often pulling guard, and then I worked a lot on like leg tie-ups, leg pummeling, and really trying to work out a lot of the leg lock in game. Obviously, with the boom that it's had in the last 2-3 years, I believe there's still a lot of gyms in the world that are almost negligent to it, like just as if they're trying to ignore it so it'll go away. But it's not going to. You know, everyone's getting way better all the time at it. You roll with some guys in some gyms, even like lower down levels, have got exceptional understanding of the leg lock game. So I spent, it's a long time studying, watching other people, and then trying to develop parts of my game off of that.
So would you say like your game originally was a little bit more advanced than your overall game was more advanced than your leg lock game until you? Yeah, because
obviously up until brown black belt, I was doing IBJJF tournaments, so the leg locking is limited anyway. Because I do still believe, obviously, the heel hook is the primary leg lock you're always going to use. I mean, it's definitely the highest hit rate finish you could use. So up until then, I'd only used a handful of toe holds in tournaments, and not, I don't think any knee bars, to be honest, at a competitive level. So and with the Reap rule with IBJJF, that starts to hinder your leg locking ability as well. So I thought, I didn't really need those parts. I didn't want to put too much focus on that part of my game up until that point, because my focus was going to be sweep, pass, mount, back take, submission. That's what I really wanted. I was just churning that out over and over again in training. And then obviously when I started going sub only no gi, it was when I first got on the EBI 3 years ago, the first ever time I got an EBI 3 years ago, where me and my coach, we kind of sat down and we were like, oh, this is interesting, because I've not really rolled much with heel hooks at all. So I had like 3 months to try to learn heel hooks. And although it didn't get into a situation in that first EBI I was on, I didn't really get into the situation where my legs were being attacked that much. Obviously, most recently where I fought Imanari, Ethan, Frank, and a couple of other guys, they've been very leg lock heavy. So I've spent the last 2.5 years really trying to develop a competent leg lock game so that I can avoid being submitted, whilst maintaining my preference of a game, which would be to pass the guard and put heavy top pressure on.
Yeah, Ashley, is it sometimes I see like MMA people learn kind of a counter jiu-jitsu style of grappling, where they know their escapes and they know how to get out of some bad situations, but they don't really want to fight back from those spots. Is that an easier way to get into the competitive, I guess, professional no-gi game, is to learn how to not get there, or
So that's very interesting, because I believe although having a very strong defensive game is definitely something you need, I'd say my style is the style I've tried to focus on is more counter-attacking. So I would never try to escape a position and then be back in a neutral scenario where it's back to 50-50. All my escapes, or all my kind of, when I try to reset the match, if I'm in danger, I try to make sure that I then immediately have an attacking opportunity. I definitely believe that it's easier to be defensively strong in jiu-jitsu than it is to be offensively strong. So, say for example, if it was a computer game and someone had leg lock levels, 100, someone could have leg lock defense level 60, and the guy who's level 100 will not be able to leg lock the guy who's level 60. The defensive capabilities, I believe, are quite outweighed than the finishing ability. You have to have quite an exceptional finishing ability to submit people who have got relatively good defensive capabilities, but not your level. It's just good enough. And then you get guys like the MMA fighters who come across to professional no-gi, and they're pushing guys to the distance, pushing guys to the judge's decision. But I don't really see how that's the achievement. I mean, there's no real achievement in not losing for 15 minutes or not losing for 10 minutes. You should be going out there to win the match. And that's why I actually think they should just stick to MMA. They should just, because the style of grappling they do works very well for MMA. And when it comes to professional jiu-jitsu, although it works in terms of efficiency to not lose, it doesn't work for the practicality of the sport in terms of they are not doing anyone any favors. Viewers don't want to watch someone sit on their knees for 10 minutes. So I always say in my interviews that I'd rather lose and be exciting than win and not want to watch the match. And I don't think a lot of people share that vision, but it's the only vision I foresee where jiu-jitsu is going to get more and more professional, and we're going to get more viewership.
Yeah. Well, you can't. I mean, as a profession, as somebody who is going out there and getting paid, it's a tough balance. You need to have enough wins that they want you back, but also you need to not be boring. When you do a great job at that, the best thing is to win and also have it be very exciting, which you're good at as well. But you can't really always control whether you win. Sometimes it's just not like the matchup is bad for you, or something happens or something like that. But you can always control if it's exciting. You can always push the pace and do things like that.
Obviously, I'm always thankful to Eddie Bravo for giving me the first opportunity in EBI, which was just absolutely insane. Like, I'd won the European Nogi up until then and a few other titles, but nothing really to warrant a UK athlete getting invited to EBI, I don't believe. To be honest, just kind of the UK community got behind me and posted a ton and said that I should get a spot on the card. And then obviously I lost my match in overtime, which I was gutted about, but I don't really believe in overtime as a thing. I don't think it's a good rule format, but I'm happy to compete in it. And then Eddie was like, I was like, oh, thanks, Eddie. We appreciate the opportunity. I understand that, you took a little risk on me, took a little chance. And straight away he was like, oh man, we'll definitely have you back. You were super exciting, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So again, I got another chance. Cool. So I'll come back again. I came back again, and then I lost again first round in overtime. And I was like, oh, Eddie, man, I'm so sorry this time. You've taken another chance, and I've just gone and messed up again. And he was like, bro, that was one of the best jiu-jitsu matches I've ever seen. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, but I understand if you don't be back. And he was like, no, you'll be back next time. So I went back a third time, and I was like, so I kind of think I learned early that, that being an exciting competitor sometimes can outweigh the outcome of the match, because some guys that I've gone on and maybe not done as well on against EBI, they haven't been on another EBI, but then I've been invited back 3 times, and I've only won one match on the EBI format, so it definitely, and then that definitely opened a lot of doors up to me, getting me on different cards. And then again, I think I just went out, I was excited, and I always go to speak to the promoter after the matches, and I always thank them for having me on the card, because I do really appreciate, I think, at the end of the day, they can have any grappler on the card. Sometimes it's better to have a local guy on the card who's going to sell 20 tickets. But I just think I'd rather be exciting, and hopefully the W's will continue to come my way. But if they don't, then I'll just go back to the drawing board. I'll train harder and I'll switch some of my game up. But I definitely will never. I will never stall out or not really display my jiu-jitsu out of fear of losing. I think you've always got to back yourself a little bit and go after people.
Yeah, okay. So really, it's almost 2 different things that you're talking about. One is you put on a great show every time you hit the mats, and you want it to be exciting. And the second thing that I think is important as far as just being professional, you lost the match. I think it would be easy and maybe common to just the rest of that night be like, damn it, and have your head hang low and don't talk to anybody, and then the next morning get in the plane and leave or whatever. But you talk to Eddie and you talk to him about your experience, and sorry man, I really was hoping to have a better result, and just that conversation I think is a very professional thing that you do that I think I never promoted any matches or fights like that, but I think he really appreciated this guy went out there and he tried his absolute best. He's talking to me. You could tell he's He's in this as a professional, and I think that's a great kind of a side lesson to your tournament experience. Yes, you push the pace. Yes, you try hard, but even if it doesn't go well, you don't mope around. You still talk to them and still promote yourself a little bit.
I always remember, I went to ADCC in Nottingham. I can't remember it was 7, maybe 8 years ago. I can't remember. It was a fair while ago, and I actually remember seeing Marcelo Garcia submit Victor Estima with a guillotine very, very quickly. And I'd actually rolled with Victor a few months previously to that, and Victor was like this incredible athlete and amazing at jiu-jitsu, and he just whooped me, when we rolled previously. I think I was a purple belt at the time, or a blue belt, but I was definitely in awe of his ability level. And then when I went to ADCC, I was like, oh my god, Victor's going to compete, this guy's going to, he's going to kill it. I obviously knew Marcelo was an absolute monster as well, but I was really surprised at how quickly the match was over. And from that match, I took I think quite an important lesson that obviously, anyone really can get caught on any given day at that type of level, because it's not the same. I'm not saying that if Victor and Marcelo fought 100 times, Victor's going to, it's not going to be 50-50. Marcelo's one of the best pound for pound in the world, but Victor might change the match. Victor beat Keenan, so you can't write someone like that off because they lose a quick match against someone who again is an elite level. And that always resonates when I go to compete. And I was like, look, today could be the day you get caught, but it equally could be the day that you catch someone. Do you mean it could be the day that your game comes out perfectly and everything goes your way? And once you kind of get your name in there, a brilliant example of this right now is definitely Craig Jones. I think he won some amazing matches at ADCC, and he literally shot to stardom, but then made himself relevant and stayed there. So he's competing all of the time. He travels a ton. I don't really know how he does it, to be honest, because I think that would make me exhausted, traveling all over the world all the time without a gym to train at consistently, or a house to come to cook my own food and everything. But he's doing it brilliantly. He just competes. He lost on the Third Coast Grappling in overtime, but then 2 weeks later he's got another match. And if he wins that match, then again he'll get another match. And he's just doing a really good job of keeping himself in the mainstream of jiu-jitsu, in the public eye. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to understand that it could not, it might not be your day, but when it is your day, it's going to be a really good day. And that day is it will come. It will come for most people. When they put the work in that the high level guys do.
You think that approach, as far as being a busy competitor, is a good way to develop yourself long term, or do you like the approach of competing and actively competing, but not all the time, and spending a lot of time in the gym getting better with your teammates?
Yeah, that's actually one of the only things I don't understand how Craig is managing to do. That's one of the things I've actually discussed with my own teammates. In quite depth. I discussed with I've got a twin brother called Joshua, and I class him as my coach as well. He does a lot of research, and he looks into a lot of my opponents for me and gives me game plans and stuff. But I discussed with him in detail about it, and he agrees. He's like, I just don't understand how Craig is managing to maintain or improve his level of jiu-jitsu whilst traveling and moving around so much without that consistency. But I don't. It's one of the things I think people believe jiu-jitsu players. I think they believe jiu-jitsu players do jiu-jitsu 4 times a day, every single day, Monday to Sunday, and that's why they're the best in the world. But I genuinely believe that you could maybe train jiu-jitsu 3 to 4 times a week and still be world champion level, because once you're kind of a level, then the maintenance and the ability to just creep up a little bit, I think is definitely doable within a smaller amount of quality sessions as opposed to quantity. And that's for example, Craig posted about the other day about he's going to improve his wrestling. Now, I think if Craig wants to improve his wrestling, that's where he's have to start putting more quantity in, because his wrestling is probably one of the weaker areas of his game. So to improve that, he is going to have to do more work, where when he's doing his leg locks and he's pulling guards and he's doing his game plan that he usually does, then the maintenance level of that is probably quite minimal for someone of his level of understanding. So for me personally, I like to take one match at a time, 6 weeks in between them, and kind of plan for that person. because I haven't done a tournament format in a little while now. I haven't done a tournament format where I've had like 4 or 5 matches with different people for probably 2 years now, which I plan on doing again this year. I'm hoping to get back into that format. But when it's the one-off matches, you can really prep stylistically for the person you're with. And every time I do that, I find I add like a massive area to my game. With Ethan, we prep very, very hard on not allowing my back to be taken. And although I have had my back taken a ton in tournament over the last few years, I felt like my understanding of where people were able to take my back were significantly increased through that camp. So I really I really made a big difference in one of what I'd class as a hole in my game, or where I believed there could have been a hole in my game. That camp really nullified that. So I can see the both elements, competing consistently or taking one match at a time. I see how it works for some people, but it's more so just what works for you. Do you mean it's like you've got to get a regime that you feel comfortable with and you feel confident with, and until stuff is going wrong, I just go with the whole if it's not broke, don't fix it approach.
Yeah, I could see, like, to look at one extreme, if you not that this isn't you, but like if a person it rolls great at the gym and then they go compete and it just doesn't work out for them, it's like they can't get anything going. Maybe the answer to that is to compete more and just
Definitely.
Get that experience level up high. But once you've got that base and you're not going in super nervous or anxious about the event, each additional match or tournament may not be that much more experience gain.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
You mentioned your brother. He's a Joshua. He's your twin. How? I'm always interested in like that relationship between brothers or twins. We've seen it several times in jiu-jitsu. What's that like? Like, has that been? Have you guys always been, even just as little kids, grappling and just pushing each other to get better?
But like originally, like I say often when I talk about this kind of dynamic, is that we both started in like a more traditional style of jiu-jitsu, like more self-defense oriented, so Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
When we were about 5 or 6, when we were kids, and we did that all the way up until we were 15, 16, and achieved our black belts in that. And although that gave me a very good footing into BJJ, a kind of head start, you'd be surprised at kind of like how much jiu-jitsu has improved in the last 10 years to almost make like some of jiu-jitsu 10 years ago borderline irrelevant. So when we developed as kids, both of us, Josh was very talented. He'd beat me in tournaments and stuff all the time. Doing like it was tough. When we were 16, we'd like compete in BJJ tournaments, white belts, blue belts then. And he would always beat me. He'd always beat me as a kid. But unfortunately, he actually had to have a knee operation, and he was actually out of the game for about a year and a half. And as I said, because jiu-jitsu is kind of developing at this really fast pace, almost every single year we're seeing like developments in the whole game, worldwide, and then it kind of spreads across from the bigger teams or the more established athletes to the smaller teams. I'm definitely from a small gym with a small team, so sometimes it takes like modern or relevant jiu-jitsu, like sometimes like 6 months after people are using it at world level. Someone would be like, "Oh my god, have you seen this?" Like the first time I learned Berimbolo I was a brown belt, and it's because I got Berimboloed. So like that's sometimes how long it takes some good jiu-jitsu to come across sometimes. So I think in the year and a half my brother had off, obviously I developed quite a lot. And I think he kind of, when he came back, he kind of struggled a bit on the psychological side of things because a lot of other guys had gone better that he used to beat. And he ended up taking almost 3 years off, and in that time I kind of went from blue to purple and he was still blue. And then he had to come back from a few other injuries. But now he's back on the scene. He's doing really well. But the one thing he's probably got better than myself, I'd say I've got like a better athlete brain, as in I'm willing to like grind it out and like push hard and kind of make the relevant sacrifices in my life to try and be as good as an athlete I can be. Where I believe his brain for jiu-jitsu is more like technical. Like he's got a really, really great body mechanics understanding of the techniques being displayed. Like he'll watch For example, like he watched Tommy Lanigan's Matrix guard stuff, and then he taught it to his students because he runs his own gym as well. And the 2 weeks after that, 2 of his students went to a tournament and did it and submitted like 2 of 3 of their opponents each using the system he just showed them 2 weeks ago. So he's got a very, very good way of understanding like the body mechanics and the biomechanics of what people are trying to achieve, and then he will pass that on to me. As I said, I do look at him now. Before we were kind of student coach and student, but now it's definitely was flipped around where I'd class him more of my coach as he'd class me of his coach. So he shows me a lot of the game stuff that he's working on, but then does not put it in as efficiently to actual practice. But he is planning on making a comeback on the competitive circuit at the end of this year. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what he can do and what he can achieve. Because if his body can follow his brain, he definitely will be a very, very tough grappler for anyone.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's you guys always have each other there for support and development.
Yeah. We train together, almost every day of the week. We see each other every day. He's actually on holidays at the moment, so we haven't seen each other for a few days now. But yeah, we stay in contact all the time. He actually tried to phone me. He just tried to phone me as we were on this conversation. I had to message him saying, "No, sorry, lad, I can't answer the phone right now." But yeah, like I said, he trains consistently, but his passion, I think he does love coaching, and he likes the technical element of it. Like he'll sit down and geek out jiu-jitsu. So he said, like Imanari, Ethan, Frank, Sergio Hernandez. Pretty much, if you think of like my last 7 matches, I believe I would have not won if he hadn't have been an element in my camp. Like he definitely was like my head coach, Chris Reese. He kind of oversees, kind of everything. My weight. If I'm lifting in the gym, if I'm recovering, like he kind of keeps an overall eye on everything. And then my brother's very, very specific on, like, he will make sure I've got the skills necessary to beat whichever opponent is next in front of me. So, yeah, really grateful to have him, but I'm looking forward to see what he can do as an athlete himself.
Yeah. How different is it to train and compete for a tournament where you know that your game is going to have to match up against somebody who's got a great top game, and then the next person might have a crazy guard, and then the next person might be just a cardio machine, versus when you compete against one person, you're able to research that person and develop techniques specifically to attack that individual.
Yeah, so I like that. Obviously, like that's why I believe like sometimes the super fight routes for some people, it could be definitely a bigger advantage in terms of them growing their own, themselves as kind of like an athlete and a brand, because you've got the opportunity to beat like these really, really high level guys in a one-off match. So I think that is like that's a brilliant opportunity for anyone. If you can sit there long enough and you can really look into someone, because obviously in my last 6 matches, I think last 6-7 matches I haven't lost yet, but if I had those 6-7 matches back to back, I'm not sure the results would play the same, because obviously you've got to think like for example when I did EBI once, the one when John Carlstein won, not taking anything from John Carlstein, but for example John Carlstein had 3 fast matches and then submissions up to the final, and then Gio had a quick sub, then a 10-minute war with me, a 10-minute war with Domingos, then for Carlstein. So like when you start putting stuff into a tournament format, I think that's what really throws more of a spanner in the works, as opposed to not being able to game plan for the person. I think it's because there's more external factors which will determine the outcome of the match. But when you've got a one-off match with one person, obviously you can game plan for them, yes. But then why would you spend 3 months of the year, for example, changing your game to suit one person when the next person might not need that style at all? So I said, like, what I try to do is I try to keep my base game, like my overall level of jiu-jitsu at a high level. And then when it comes to specifically planning for one person, I aim to tailor my training so that 80% of my training is still my overall game is improving, but then like 20% will be aimed towards catering for what they are very good at or what they're very bad at. So I will add extra drills in at the end of practice to cater for like a leg locker or a back take or a heavy top pressure, you know. So I won't tailor my whole training, but I will tailor a portion of.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to maintain that long-term growth. If you invested too much time and energy into just defeating that one person and didn't worry about your overall game, well, once that one match is over, you've gone down kind of a rabbit hole of technique that you don't really care about, and you didn't develop your own game. So that's a great that's a great long-term strategy to continue to do well. So are you training any with the gi, or is it all pretty much no gi?
So like I'll put the gi on like once to twice a week, potentially. It's more so for my students because like we've got some guys like black belts and brown belts who want to compete on the IBJJF gi circuit. I still fight, like toy with the idea of making a comeback to try and do gi worlds next year. Like not like saying like I come back as in I'm going to go win gi worlds, as in just to come back in the gi to see where I would fit within the hierarchy of jiu-jitsu in the gi. You have to qualify for worlds now, which I think is an interesting idea because that, you know, sometimes that in itself is an achievement, getting in the mix with some of those best guys, having enough points to get in there. But then, you know, I say this, and then sometimes if I get a really good run now at a Kasai, for example, and then I get on another Kasai card or Polaris, or for example, like if me and Nicky Ryan happens at some point next year or whenever it does, then if those type of matches go my way, then obviously the kind of the brand I'm building for myself and the way I'm trying to push myself forward to spend a lot of time in the gi then would almost be detrimental to what I'm trying to achieve. So I also am going to put the gi back on and push, and then like I get an email or get a phone call or a message saying, "Oh, how would you like to get on? How would you like to be on this show to fight this guy?" And I'm like, I can't turn that down. But I can't do a gi match now. So it kind of depends how my schedule goes and how the competitions play out. Because I do believe that you need to, you know, the guys who are winning the gi world championships, I definitely believe that they are of a different caliber in a gi compared to no gi. When you if you compare the top no gi guys in the world, they could all spar with those top gi guys no gi. But if you put them all in a gi and put them against the best gi guys in the world, I don't believe they would fare anywhere near as good.
Yeah, it seems like as the years go on, that divide is getting bigger and bigger as each sport develops different things.
Yeah, definitely. There's two different sports. Like everyone just says like, oh, it's all jiu-jitsu. When someone's playing worm guard or someone's like going for 50-50 heel hook on you, then those worlds start to become very different. Very, very different. You know, when the rule sets are changing between the two sports and some techniques are allowed or not allowed, you may as well just say like judo, wrestling. It's all jiu-jitsu. You can't. As like they're specific to what you're trying to achieve, and they've got different rule sets, different formats on each one. So I do believe that unless like a tournament follows IBJJF no-gi rules, then the sports are by far becoming significantly different.
Yeah, and for the extremes like Cobrinha, it's just even more impressive. As you see somebody do great at both.
When you get someone, I saw. Did you see? It's really, really funny. But did you see Craig Johnson, Keenan Cornelius' interviews before they fought in Polaris?
I don't recall that.
Oh, they were brilliant. So, like, Keenan was saying that, because, like, people put Craig as the favourite, and Keenan was literally like, I don't want to say it, but, like, I literally just beat this dude at ADCC, like, 12-0 or whatever it was, you know, like, and Keenan's laughing about it. And Keenan says, like, you know, he competes in gi, no gi, and, you know, he's working his game all the time. And Gordon's interview was like, I just don't understand it. Keenan is winning in everything, and I'm just trying to be good at no-gi. You know, like, I'm doing the one thing, and Keenan is literally killing it everywhere. He's like, if I can't beat this dude just in my one thing, then I don't know what I'm going to do, you know? So,
yeah.
Like, that summed it up for me. Like, that was like, yeah, fair play. Like, and people are understanding that they are different, and there's different talents and you know, assets in both. And obviously, Craig did win that match on Polaris, but then the rule set, you know, like the rule set makes matches sometimes. Sometimes you could beat someone in one rule set and you put it into a different rule set and you actually wouldn't beat that guy.
Yeah. I mean, we could even look at like the extreme but very similar, but a different comparison. Like you could have somebody who competes in like wrestling, legitimate wrestling, where they, you're pinning the person, and then also does no-gi. Like, how could they, like, okay, there's a lot of similar things happening here, but they're two different sports, and
yes.
it's a little bit more extreme than that division. But
I do always find it really funny when American gyms have like a guy who comes in and is trained for like he's trained for 2 years and he's beaten black belts, and they never ever say that he did wrestling for 10 years. You're like, how is that fair to compare? Like, how could you honestly be like, oh, we've created this absolute killer in 18 months, but yeah, actually he's had like 300 wrestling matches. That's ridiculous. Like, you can't negate, you can't just ignore that full set of training. Like that full. And wrestling for me in particular, like, if I could go back and I could have had my base sport as something, I think wrestling would have been the pinnacle sport to kind of have pre-jiu-jitsu. I think like a wrestling base in jiu-jitsu kind of gives you a massive advantage, especially in no-gi over almost anyone who does just strict jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, technically in no-gi, it's a great way to start. Also, another advantage that wrestlers get is they get a lot of matches. And so we talked a little bit about if you're not performing the way you do in the gym, those wrestlers, they're used to having matches. They're used to staying there, on the mat across from another person and just go and mentally they're there.
Tons of matches.
Yeah.
They used to cut weight. They used to like that. Like, like sometimes I think in jiu-jitsu, like people want stuff to be like almost textbook. They want it to be like as if like it's an effortless sweep. But because everyone's getting more athletic now and everyone's getting really good at like being counter-attacking and defending very strongly, wrestlers are really, really good at winning that 50-50 situation. Like if it could go either way, and a wrestler will push that little bit harder to win that exchange. And I think that's one of the things they bring across the most, is like, obviously their ability to main top is very, very good. Their base balance is excellent, but the dog in them, their ability to really push through the fight at maximum capacity is incredible, like absolutely incredible. So like I said, like I think the best base really for anyone coming into jiu-jitsu would be wrestling. To be honest, I think it's a massive advantage.
Yeah, and it also sets you a little bit different from the other competitors who just train jiu-jitsu all the time. It's like being a leg lock specialist, being a wrestler. It makes you a different style of competitor versus the other 9 people that they're grappling against. So it kind of adds an angle
definitely.
to that.
I do. Actually, I think leg locking to be controversial usually is like, although it's had a massive boom, I actually already start to think kind of like the line of progression of leg locking is actually starting to level out, if not decrease, because of everyone's efficiency of defending leg locks.
Yeah.
Like I'm very, very interested to see how many heel hooks happen at this year's ADCC.
Yeah.
Very, very curious to see how many leg lock finishes happen, because I believe there might be a lot more choke finishes, a lot of like leg lock entanglements where someone uses a rotational defense or turns to escape and gets their back taken and choked. I think that might be like you already see it with some of the Danaher guys. They're already implementing this back attack system, and a lot of it comes off of someone's kind of style of escaping the leg lock. So when they escape the leg lock, you get their back, and then there's the finish. So I think maybe this time round, or if not this time, definitely 2 years, I believe the heel hooking finish rate will go lower in the tournament
as the defenses catch up to the offense game.
100%, yeah, 100%. Because I think, like, obviously, like the Danaher Desco, when they came into the sport, at the time they did and where they were at, and obviously they were very fortunate to have the EBI platform initially to perform on, because EBI really, up until then, EBI was the only submission grappling kind of event that was giving out good prize money. Like, it was a very professional type tournament. So I was when they came across and the Danaher guys got into it, and they had this platform to perform on, I believe what really stood out was not just their leg lock capability, but the world's inability to defend them. So, like, just that general level or lack of awareness in most other gyms ability of the leg locks. So I think that the rest of the world has been spending a lot of time in the last 2 years. For example, I know my own personal gym, we spent a lot of time trying to correct this error and this hole, in our game. But then if you guys are in a gi class every single week, realistically, you're not going to be doing heel hooks anytime soon, because no major organization allows you to heel hook in a gi. So you won't be teaching them to do it as this time spent training that they can't really implement it. So I do think that's why I believe that in the next few years, obviously, heel hooking will kind of decrease a little bit. The one thing that legless have got superior to a lot of other submissions is how devastating the break mechanics are. It's like you're not really going to play around with a heel hook. Sometimes you might play around, if someone's got a choke and you go out unconscious, it's not the end of the world. But when your leg's at stake, people are a lot more cautious about the tap.
Yeah, and they happen fast.
Yes, they do. Yeah, especially when those rotational defenses are put into play and people are spinning, and sometimes spinning toward the break mechanic. A great example would be the BJ Penn match. The BJ Penn fight where he got heel hooked. He just rotated essentially towards the finishing mechanic. So it was kind of an easy night. It was a bad time for BJ Penn. That was.
You're talking about the one with Ryan Hall?
Ryan Hall, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Ryan Hall had a bite and a pinch on the leg. He was fairly set up, and then BJ went for a rotational, like a big step over, and he believed his heel was going to slip, but his heel didn't slip, and then obviously he had a tap because he was in deep then. Yeah.
I want to get a little bit of advice for you, and I don't know if it's advice for you, but advice from you. I want to get a little advice from you for the competitors out there. Ashley, you spent a lot of your competitions you've had to travel for, and I think that's somewhat common, especially for somebody who's kind of in that up and coming range, and they've done some local tournaments and they want to do something bigger. They've got to get on a plane and travel for several hours, or even more than that. Maybe what did you do early on that during travel that you don't do now, or what do you do differently to make sure that your traveling doesn't affect the way you perform on the mats?
So I travel significantly less now. When I was a purple belt, brown belt, I was spending significant amount of time out of the country. Like sometimes I was going away 5 weekends in a row to different tournaments around Europe. The UK it's not a bad location, but if I could literally pick up my whole life and just move it to America, I probably would, just because of the quantity of tournaments, just how many good level tournaments there are and how much experience you could get. I think that is that's one thing which is a kind of a battle for anyone in a more remote area. Especially I'm 3.5, 4 hours away from London, so if I want to fly to any other country, realistically I've got to get to London first, then fly, then come home, then drive home, so it's not just I could jump to my near airport and get around the world to compete. So when I first started out, I was just trying to look for as many tournaments as I could, to be honest, try and get the matches in. That's one thing I think people underestimate is just volume of matches. Do you mean you could maybe do a division where you could get one fight and get a gold. Some of my gold medals, I'm really, really proud of, and I was really happy at the time. But looking back at them now, I could have just entered the division above and maybe had 3 matches, maybe 4 matches. And a purple belt, I would always do the absolute. Wherever tournament I enter, I would always do the absolute. I'd get more matches all of the time. And I actually stopped doing the absolutes at brown because of the leg locks, because if a 90 kilo guy gets hold of my foot, that's a lot worse for me than some of my own weight, so I stopped kind of doing absolutes at brown belt because I felt like the risk reward wasn't there anymore. But the advice I usually give is just, especially if you're lower down, or you're trying to get some kind of momentum behind your training or you're competing, is get that volume of matches in, and don't actually overly concern yourself with the outcome at those lower levels, because you got to think if your overall goal is winning the black belt worlds, you could win the worlds at every single level before that and then never achieve it at black belt. You could lose every year at worlds at every level before that and win it at black belt. you don't actually know, like, until you get to that level. Sometimes you just don't know where you stand within that. Like I've said it before. Say like you're on say a brown belt worlds, for example. Is one of the easiest examples to give this, because I always find it absolutely crazy. It's almost crazy that there's world championships for all the other belt levels. Because if you think about it, anybody who wins worlds at a belt level that's not black belt is just the belt above. As in, they should just be the next level up. They should. If you're a blue belt world champion, well, technically you are just a purple belt. If you're a purple world champion, you are a brown belt. As in, winning the world and remaining your color level, I don't believe is the correct thing to do. As in, like, you should really be the level above. But say you look at a brown belt podium, the world's brown belt podium, and first, second, third, and fourth are on the podium, and between them there's like maybe there's a cumulative score of like, I don't know, 8 points and 6 advantages. If those 4 guys fought each other over and over again, any single one of them probably could win. If you're winning matches by an advantage or by 2 points, realistically on any other day, the other guy could win. So say all 4 guys, say the guy in first place gets his black belt from winning the Worlds. The other 3 guys are not anywhere less capable than the guy in first. If they only lost by an advantage to the guy who won the gold medal and then got his black belt, well, then realistically, you're a black belt as well. So that's why I would say, like, that you can't always just think of, like, tournament results, the actual medal itself. Like, all those are good motivators and indicators. When you actually get to black belt, it's almost like restarting. It's almost like, just like a cut-off line, and kind of you need to start achieving stuff again. So I always just think just get as many matches and just get that cumulative experience behind you before you get the black belt. So stuff like controlling your nerves, controlling your weight cut, but basically all the other external factors of traveling and getting used to other stuff, like, you should do that prior to black belt. And then when you're the black belt, then that's where that win-loss record almost comes into effect.
Yeah, I definitely can see your argument that if you win blue belt, worlds, or even just a big tournament, like, okay, you probably would do just fine with the purple belts, but
you would 100%.
IBJ, I put that like some time requirements on things as well. So like you need to be a purple belt for a certain amount of time before you get your brown.
Yes,
that kind of.
Yeah, they do. I don't know whether the IBJJF time requirements need a little bit of adjusting now, because I think they were done. They were kind of made up in a time almost prior to almost this full-time athlete thing. Like, as in, like, still there's only a few, like, we've got maybe 8 to 10 guys who almost train full-time in a method, in one method or another, whether they coach a few hours a week or whether, they're in university but they're only in university 2 days a week or whatever. We've got like maybe 8 guys who train every day, 2-3 times a day. And I think those time frames for IBJJF were done before that, like, where, like, 99% of all gyms just had guys competing, but most of those guys still had jobs, etc. And like they were doing jiu-jitsu 2-3 times a week, maybe.
Yeah.
So I feel like they need to be adjusted slightly. And even now, like, you look at even, like, for example, like, Nikki is a very, very great person to look at in terms of that. Like, if Nicky Ryan's not a black belt, who is? Like, how is he not? But he's not a black belt just because of his age, just because of your rules in your book. That makes no sense. His physical capabilities and his technical capabilities are definitely, he's one of the best in the world at the weight. So people often ask me, like, how do you think he's so good, so fast, and this and that? And I said, like, well, if you look at it this way, if you picked any sport, and then you said, right, we will put him in one of the best gyms in the world, and his parents are very supportive in terms of they want him to train full time. They believe he'd achieve. Like, he I believe he's like kind of dropped out of school to just do jiu-jitsu full time. If I asked my mum to drop out of school, she'd probably smack me. She'd slap me in the face. She'd be like, "No, you're going to school. You're going to university." I did all the conventional, normal stuff that society want you to do. Until I left university, I was always on that route of, like, oh, I'll get a 9-to-5 job, blah blah blah. But like Nicky's in the perfect environment. He's in a brilliant environment for development. So the fact that he's very good, it to me is not really surprising at all. As in, it's just, but yeah, he trains really, really hard. He's surrounded by some of the best athletes in the world. He's got great advice. He's got a great coach. How wouldn't he be good?
Yeah.
And then when you put a time frame on it, and someone goes, wow, he can't be that good in this time frame. Well, he is, and he has. So, like, those time frames need to be adjusted, really.
Could I mean, just to make the counter argument here, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like Nicky, although he's not 18, I don't think he's 18 yet, but definitely is that caliber of athlete. But also, you could maybe in theory say that some people. Like myself, I'm not super athletic. I have a full-time job. I train as a hobbyist, but I do have a black belt. But it's not the same as a competitor that trains like you and is taking this as a serious, as your job. But I feel that I'm the black belt version of me. As for who I am, I'm almost 40.
Yes,
and I have a full-time job.
I would totally agree with you. Yeah, we have this we do have this debate quite frequently about like the club black belt versus the competitor black belt. And that's why, for example, that world's podium argument would never come to light, because obviously, like, the guys who compete seriously full time, they want to achieve those titles throughout every belt level and continue to grow on themselves and their career, etc. They want to keep building themselves up and prove themselves time and time again. So, like, realistically, I believe if you took a purple belt world champion and he went to most gyms in the world, he would beat a club black belt, in my opinion.
Yeah, he'd beat me. I'd say that pretty easy.
A purple world champion. I've seen some of the techniques and some of their ability. I mean, it's insane. They're incredible athletes, and I believe that as well. That's what I think. Like, you got to start now looking at black belt as like what a black belt is to you and where you believe you fit. Because when you get promoted, I think whether you truly are that level or not. I think you understand that level or not. And, being like some people call it a time served, but I don't really agree with a time served black belt. I think that's a bit crazy, because the analogy I use when I speak to say some of the kids in some of the kids' programs I teach, like, they all go to school. This is the easiest way I explain it. They all go to school, and I ask them, are they all going to get A stars? And obviously they say no. Like, say I got 20 kids, and you say to them, right, what are you all going to get in your GCSEs? And I say, obviously, you could all get A stars. And they go, well, no, I'm not going to get an A star. And I'm like, well, why would you get an A star? And they're obviously like, oh, because I'm not very good at this subject, blah, blah, blah. And my point is, like, for something like that, you could potentially say to them, okay, cool, well, stay in school then until you achieve an A star in that subject. But you, as well as I know, that could actually never come to light. As in, they might stay in school for 10 years and still not be able to get a maths GCSE A star. As it might not happen. Yeah. I wouldn't get an English A star. It's not what it's not where my passion is. I don't put my time, effort, and energy into it. So, same with jiu-jitsu. I believe if you just turn up twice a week, like some people do with school, they just turn up, they sit in their seat, they just watch the teacher rant on, they don't care, they'd rather be somewhere else. Jiu-jitsu, I find some people, although I find it berserk because jiu-jitsu is optional, where people come and pay for a service, they still turn up and they just don't put the maximum effort in. They don't put the effort in. So a time-served belt should be impossible by theories, and because you should never be rewarded just for turning up somewhere twice a week. So I believe that the black belt could be achieved from on a different scale from a competitor, but a black belt should never be achieved from just turning up.
Yeah,
that's not really a thing. To me, that doesn't exist, because otherwise, I left university with like a third in my degree. I didn't like the first, but I was going to jiu-jitsu 10 times a week instead of studying. So like I think that I don't think the time served black belt is a thing. At the end of the day, you go to the gym, you put the effort in, you turn out the hours, you do the improvements. It doesn't mean necessarily you have to be as good as another person to achieve a black belt, but it definitely means that you need to have shown development in yourself from a white belt to a blue belt, from a blue belt to a purple belt, from a purple to a brown,
Yeah, it's a personal journey.
Yeah, 100%. You need to show personal development and growth within the sport to achieve that.
So could we be looking? I don't just to keep using Nicky Ryan as an example. Does he have a belt? Is he a brown belt? Is he? I don't even know.
I think last time I checked, he's a purple belt.
Okay. Could this be the purple belt version of Nicky Ryan? I mean, is that a fair thing to say?
That's a very, very good. That's actually an interesting point of. I understand your counter argument. I think that's a very interesting topic and debate. But not to say there's a ceiling in jiu-jitsu, because obviously, great examples would be like Cabrinha, Rafael Mendes, but like just recently, Michael Musumeci kind of did an upset and beat Bruno Marfusini.
Yeah.
That's a big upset. But then when you look at those two people, Michael's been training a lot less time, but that's what I mean. Like once you're in kind of that higher hierarchy of the sport, and you kind of on those given days, almost anyone could beat anyone. If you look at the caliber of fighters Nicky's fighting, I do believe he's always going to progress. But he's fighting the level of guys he's fighting. He beat Gio Martinez. Like that. I just don't believe you could be a purple belt and be able to achieve that.
Yeah.
As in, I know you said about purple version of himself, but I don't think the progression curve will stay the same for him at brown and black, hence why he should be a black belt. Anyone who calls him a purple belt I think is crazy, as the kid is a black belt. He's very, very good grappling, and he's very, very talented.
Yeah. But I mean, just we'll see what he's like when he does have a black belt.
I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see how he does when he turns up the next few years. I know he's stepping up to 77 for ADCC, which I think is a very, very quite brave move, considering his age, and he probably will now lack a bit of physicality in the 77 kilo division. And I'm very, very interested to see how he gets on in that division.
Yeah. Well, he competed last time at ADCC.
Yeah, at 66, and I thought he did an impressive display. He fought AJ Agasam.
Yeah.
Which again, that is brilliant. But I think when you're at 77 kilos,
it's a different game.
And he's not exactly the big. Nicky's not the biggest guy ever. He's not small, but he's definitely not massive. And you look at JT Torres in 77.
Yeah.
It's a scary human, So, I'm not saying Nicky can't do well. Nicky could definitely do well at 77, but I'm definitely more interested now to see how he performs there. I think that's if the task already wasn't a big one, it definitely is now.
I think anywhere on those mats is, ADCC or Polaris, all these big things
are so stacked.
Yeah.
So stacked. Incredible, man. The amount of good guys they've got in it this year is insane.
Yeah. And all these guys that get there have a lot of support and great teams and sponsors. Do you have any sponsors you want to mention?
Yeah, I've been lucky to have the backing of the Sami Fightwear for probably the last, I think it's 6 years now. They truly do they put everything into me, really. They really allow me to compete more frequently, and they help me out where they can, Obviously, I think that's the biggest hardship of jiu-jitsu, really, is the lack of financial gain for competitors. So, sometimes competitors are paying out thousands of pounds in a year for essentially little pieces of metal. And then even then, it's the next year starts again and no one cares about what you've won. So I do really, really appreciate any my support and sponsors. Probably the biggest support to me is my family and my coach. They're well and truly behind me. They really help me out and make sure that I'm competition ready. And I know it's trivial stuff, but athletes do sacrifice quite a lot. You might be oh, let's go out for a meal on Thursday night for my mum's birthday, and I'm look, I'm cutting weight. I'm fighting Saturday. I'm not, it won't really suit me, and they'd change plans, or they'd wait until I compete so we can all go out and celebrate together. They're really, really supportive of my career.
Yeah. If someone's gonna go swing by the Tommy Fightwear website, do you have a favorite rash guard or favorite pair of shorts that you really like?
At the time, if I at the moment, I've been rocking their Camo VTs. I'm kind of like on a hot streak with them. Like, I think I haven't lost since I started wearing them. So I'm gonna wear them this weekend and on Kasai, and I'm hoping the lucky pair of shorts will keep me through. You know, like, who knows? But when I lose, I'm gonna retire the shorts.
But they've been good for you so far.
Yeah,
that's awesome. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Do you have any final like training advice or tips you want to drop anybody?
Yeah, no, the only thing I would say to finish off is that jiu-jitsu is a super, super tough sport, and the only way to really progress in such a tough environment is to enjoy it. As in, if you don't have enjoyment for jiu-jitsu, I honestly believe that you should find a different sport. Just like your enjoyment factor of jiu-jitsu is what is going to keep you going over the years that you need to develop. Turn up to the gym and just enjoy every second of it. You know, like I've said, I saw a post, a wicked post. Josh Hinger posts quite a lot of really cool motivational stuff. Like, I really like it. But I'm with him, man. I like, you know, the recent split with Keenan from his gym. Like, I don't believe there's any like bad gyms. I just believe there's gyms that suit certain styles of people and other styles of people. You know, like, as in, everybody can find the right gym for them if they look and they find the right jiu-jitsu environment for them. And if you do, then jiu-jitsu is one of the best things you'll ever come across. And obviously, longevity in the sport is really what you need to get to where you want to go. So the enjoyment factor of turning up to the gym you want to be in is probably a high priority on the list of tips I'd give over like nutrition, training hard, training more, training less. The main thing I'd always say is just make sure you enjoy it. If you're on a day where you're like, I know loads will disagree with me on this one. They always say like, oh, the days you don't want to turn up are the days you should turn up. Sometimes the days you don't want to turn up, stay in bed, watch some TV, eat some cake, whatever. Just enjoy yourself. Just do something, take your mind off it, relax, and then get your headspace ready. Go mentally prepared for the next session.
Yeah, but watch those days, they add up. You know, one day turns into a week, into the month, and you haven't trained in a long time.
That's what you can't do. When you have that one day you don't want to go, just do the one day. You know what?
Just do the one day.
Your mental preparation is the key thing. Your mental preparation of being in the gym is where your effort needs to go.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear from such a high-level competitor, is that it's important to enjoy it. Because a lot of times I think people, like myself, I train mostly for fun. It's a very enjoyable activity. But if I were to ramp it up and want to compete and really put that on me, I think for myself personally, a lot of the fun would just go away, and I would bring all these negative things.
I've got a theory of, because every athlete in the world probably has been told this hundreds of times, of how lucky we are. We get told how lucky we are quite frequently with the life we get to live. And I've got a theory that if you took an average person and paid them their salary to train jiu-jitsu instead of doing their job, but every time they missed a session or a round, their salary would reduce, I believe they'd be pretty poor in 6 months. Because it's not for everyone, definitely not, you know. But I always say that if I didn't do it for a living and I didn't compete full time, I would still turn up to the gym every night because I genuinely do love it, and I really enjoy jiu-jitsu, and I would never not have it as part of my life.
That's awesome. Hey, Ashley, thank you so much for hopping on here with me.
Thank you, Baron. I really enjoyed it.
Hey, before I let you go, where can they follow you and keep up with you? Social media.
Oh yeah, Instagram. I post probably most frequently. So A Williams BJJ, and I'm just now getting into. I'm going to launch my own YouTube page with free content weekly. I'm going to start with the omoplata sweep that I caught on Ethan in our Polaris match, so that'll be going out in the next week or so. I'm going to start trying to put some free content out there of some of my favorite techniques that I've been using in competition.
Oh man, thank you. I can't believe I almost forgot to ask that stuff.
No worries.
But yeah, thank you, Ashley, so much.
Cheers, Baron. I really enjoyed.
I want to thank Ashley for hopping on here with us and really sharing some of his story and some of his experience and also some guidance on the mats. We all use that from time to time, and it's good to get somebody with his level of competition experience and coaching as well. So thank you, Ashley, for hopping on here, and it's great to have you. Go follow him on social media. There'll be links in the show notes. if you thought that this interview was something that a friend of yours would enjoy, man, we would love it if you recommend the podcast to them. That's how we've grown most. We don't do a ton of self-promotion. You haven't seen ads for the BjjBrick podcast. You haven't, we're not running YouTube or Facebook ads all the time, or I don't think I've ever really ran anything like that. But it's word of mouth. It's trying to produce the best show that we can, and then hopefully friends will talk about it and share it with their buddies. So that's we rely on you guys a lot for that.
And Byron, didn't you say we get another couple new Patreon supporters this week?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's pretty rare that we get more than one Patreon supporter in a week. On the same day, we got Cody and Clarence joined to support us on Patreon, and also Emma just shortly before that. So thank you guys for your new support on Patreon. And what they have done is they listen to the show, and I think this is a really good show. I like to support it, help it grow and become even better. So they pledge. You could pledge $1 per episode. So every at the end of every month, however many episodes we have, they're pledging that to us. And what we do as a token of our appreciation is we'll mail you out I was going to say a 5-inch BjjBrick gi patch. Now it's 2. We have 2 patches because of our new logo. You're looking at it right now. If you open up your podcast app, it's on the screen. And if you're new to the show, we used to have an old logo that didn't have Joe in it. Terrible thing. Joe's much better. Our new logo is much better than the old one, just with the addition of Joe's face. And the artwork is really cool. It's by Carmel Paints, and we really enjoyed working with her. And actually, I put up a little kind of like an article or a little story of how working with her was, and she sent back different sketches and ideas and how those evolved, and we ended up with the final product that's on the website if you want to check that out. Anyway, Omega got 2 patches, the old patch and we're going to call it legacy patch, the old one, and then the new shiny
the throwback patch.
The throwback is good. The throwback patch, which is, I couldn't imagine making more of these throwback patches. So time's limited, my friends, on the throwback patch. All of our current Patreon supporters have the throwback patch. If you're listening and you don't have the new patch, which most of them don't, because I not for sure who actually wants a patch or if you've moved, send me an email at bjjbrick@gmail.com and say, hey, I'm a Patreon supporter. I would like to get updated on the patch, and then include your address. I'll mail it right out. No additional cost. You're supporting us already. I want you to get what everybody else is getting. It's only fair, and I want you to be able to have that patch on your gi or wherever you want to attach it, book bag, your thigh, like Gary did.
Yeah, or put a rubber band around it and put it on your eye, so it's like a patch.
That's pretty big. It's 5 inches,
yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, the good thing is, we now have the throwback patch.
I said that phrase.
I let you buy, Byron.
Thank you, Gary. You let us slide.
Yeah, but I mean, we have the throwback patch, our new patch, and Byron's coming out with a nicotine patch, so that'll be coming out shortly.
Or a fentanyl patch would be really bad things. That's the most deadly drug, I think, in the U.S. Nicotine, much better. I don't recommend any of this. Anyway, we want to send you guys our new patch. If you're our current supporter, send me the message. If you're not in our private Facebook group and you're supporting us on Patreon, send us that message as well with your Facebook profile link, and I'll get you added to the group. We have lots of fun, and sometimes it's just a little bit of behind-the-scenes trash talking. Sometimes some of our other Patreon supporters poke at us, and I really enjoy that, seeing those posts.
It's funny. It seems like everybody, not only do you guys gang up on me, but Gerald and everybody else.
Oh, I love Gerald's post. Gerald will post about something from episode like a year ago, or like, oh yeah, that did happen. Yeah, that did happen. Oh man, I love that.
But no, I really do want to say thank you to Clarence, Cody, and Emma. We really appreciate your support. We couldn't do this show without you and the rest of the Patreon supporters. So thank you very much.
Guys, we got an article here on Open Guard BJJ. I'll put a link in the show notes. The title is Make Your BJJ Training Effortless. And,
go ahead,
Jeff.
It's a great article. Yeah, it's a great article. got the show notes kind of late this morning.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
I'm not sure who sends those out, but so I'm looking through it while we're doing the podcast, and it's not one of those simple 5 things I learned. Those are great articles, but this is not one of those. I'll just tell you what I got out of it. It's they talk about when you go off to college and your goal is on getting good grades, that you're missing out on gaining knowledge. You know, your mindset's backwards, and it takes people a while to turn that around sometimes. And you put that into your jiu-jitsu, and a lot of people make the mistake that thinking just working hard, working more effort, more hustle, that's the way to get better. And that definitely has value. But man, don't miss out on the gaining of the knowledge and chasing becoming a better jiu-jitsu practitioner rather than chasing winning the next tournament or chasing the next belt. So a great article. And I think the end is that if you get that mindset, then the learning just kind of comes natural. And I guess that's where the title comes from, to make your BJJ training effortless.
Yeah. I think that a lot of us, when we're starting out, get some frustrations. You might be at that middle range white belt, and you really want to tap that blue belt out, and you might be trying too hard to accomplish that goal, and actually doing some negative. I think the one example that I think makes sense to me is the idea of hitting, because I'm not a baseball guy. Never played baseball, other than playing some catch. And yeah. Well, I don't know what that even means. That's not even an insult, Gary. But
boy, I just got that turned on me.
If Gary used his baseball skills and taught me the fundamentals of baseball and how to swing the bat, right? And so what would be the next step? Okay, I've got the swing down. Well, maybe have Joe pitch some medium speed balls at me while I work at hitting the swing correctly and making contact with the ball. But if Joe's firing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, I guarantee you I would lose form. I would not connect with the ball ever. Like it would just be too much too fast. I'd still be trying really hard if I wasn't curled up in a ball scared of this ball whizzing by my body at 100 miles an hour. But at some point, that ultra competitive, or that I'm outside my zone of where I could learn, and I'm trying hard, but I'm just failing. And I think I need to dial it back a little bit and be where I can hit the ball. It's difficult, but I'm able to use good form and do that. So in your jiu-jitsu, you need to be able to pull off the moves you're doing without maximum effort every time. So sometimes it should be a pretty effortless sweep or a really nice setup for a triangle or something like that, which doesn't take tons of energy. If every roll you're ending exhausted, you're probably pushing yourself too hard.
I'll tell you one thing, Byron. If I'm throwing fastballs to you, you're taking one behind the ear. not because I want to, but because I can't. I don't have no baseball skills either, so that would be a disaster.
Well, I was thinking if Joe was throwing 100 miles an hour, Joe would not be on this podcast. He would be the closer for the Houston Astros.
Yep, there you go, brother.
So I'll put a link to the article in the show notes. And guys, we got a quick question here about taping your fingers. Do you guys tape your fingers? Do you have any advice about that if you do?
I'm the last guy because I've never taped my fingers to give advice.
Man, same here. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. My hands get really sore. People say it's smart, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Byron?
The only time I've taped my fingers, and it's been, I think it's probably been more than a couple of years since I've had tape on my fingers, but I've got an injury already. So maybe one finger's swollen, or I jammed it or something like that. A lot of times I'll tape them together just to eliminate some movement, or I tape it to immobilize it. I don't do preventative taping. I'm not that hard on my grips. If I grab Joe's leg, gi pant, I guess is a better way to say that than leg. If I grab his gi pant and he looks like he's going to kick out of my grip, I just let go. Like I don't need my hand to take that impact, and so I think just I alter in the way I roll. And sure, I probably would roll better if I made him kick hard, and maybe fail sometimes or whatever. But my hand doesn't want to take the brunt of the power of their leg or the power of both their hands. So if I'm putting strain on my hands, usually it's okay to let go and move on to something else, and maybe that moving on to something else is a better move anyway than have them break the grip and be in a spot where they're used to. So just maybe go first and make that move. But yeah, I don't think any of us, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because a lot of guys do it, but not the three of us aren't taping our fingers before we hit the mats. If I have tape on my hands, I'm either hiding a cut or, my finger doesn't want to work properly anyway, so I'm trying to prevent that from happening more. And possibly, I totally lost my train of thought. So that's kind of where we all stand. There's nothing wrong if you do tape your fingers and you think it helps you, but I get to the gym and I hit the mats pretty quick. As far as I guess to tape your fingers, you need to show up an extra 10 minutes early and get the tape, and that's just not my routine. And none of us sound like we play that game to where our hands are taking that sort of damage.
Yep.
I do hear from a lot of people that do tape that it does make a big difference, but we're probably not the best guys to give you taping advice, since none of us actually do it.
Next week, guys, we have Patty Fontes on this show. She was great to interview. Already done the interview, so I can tell you it's going to be a great episode. She's no-gi world champion 2015, 16, and 17, 3 times back-to-back. It was great to have her on the show for the interview. She shares a lot of her story and also has a lot of advice for you guys. So much like today, great episode. Next week, you're going to love it as well. So stay tuned and stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, get better, guys. We'll see you on the mats.
And also next week, Byron's going to give us a recap on how his jiu-jitsu, family reunion jiu-jitsu tournament went. So
I'll have to get
we'll check that out.
I have to get a big picture of my brother having me in a choke or something.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.